I was thinking, I can so often be like that. I can have this scarcity mentality where I rely on money and possessions and things to bring me safety and security and get insurance and things like that. But God invites us to live differently. We have this abundant God who says, live life differently. And I think that's why this community is so important for me, and I hope it is for you, because I need reminders and I need people to cheer me on that journey to live life differently. So I want to frame that as we jump into our notices and think these are invitations from a community to participate and do life differently, to enjoy God's love and abundance in community and look at the world around us differently. So I think business life is first. So this is an awesome initiative, inviting business owners and leaders or people who are that way inclined to gather together. This week, we've got 3 amazing members of our community on a panel, and they'll be sharing their wisdom. And again, it's this encouragement and this opportunity to do business differently, because being a Christian isn't just about this service on a Sunday. It should flow through everything we do. And this is an awesome opportunity if that's your world, your sphere. Get involved in that. Come and chat to me after, or Sean somewhere here. He's a great guy I can get you connected with. That's a great community to be involved with. Another opportunity is this Think Pink fundraiser. So it's raising money for breast cancer survivors or breast cancer people struggling with that currently. Again, another great initiative. We should be, as Christ ambassadors, we should be leading the charge in these things. So this is another invitation to come along and get involved in this opportunity to raise money and support this awesome work that they're doing. So please, there's the details on the screen. You can scan the QR code in front of you and go to the church notices page to get any or more information if I've been too mumbly and vague. But please, get involved. Finally, giving. Again, this is another invitation. God's this God of generosity. And I think, again, it gets back to Pharaoh's scarcity mentality where we hoard things for ourselves. The opposite to that, or the way to overcome that, is actually to give things away. And that's our time, our money, our words, whatever it is. And this is an opportunity to give your money and be generous in this community and support the work that we do here for our community. So all the details are there again. Finally, I'm going to invite Stu Cran up onto stage. Is Stu here with us? Here he comes. Yes. Look at it. What a showman. He's walked from the back, the darkness fading in. This guy's a legend in our community. And he's here, wants to tell us, can you tell us a little bit about this upcoming event called Get With God? I know my son's been on it and loved it. It's been transformative in his life. So can you tell everyone here a little bit about Get With God?
I sure can. Welcome everyone, I'm Stu, chappie at Mountain Creek State High. Been around the traps here for 20 plus years, I guess. God called me to work with young people a very long time ago, and I'm still doing that. As my wife says, sometimes she says to me, I need to grow up. I'm not a teenager anymore. That's what happens when you hang out with them too much. So many years ago, I was down at Helensvale, I was on pastoral staff down there, and a friend of mine invited me to a day solo. It's a day up in the rainforest, beautiful space, away from distractions, to spend some time seeking God. And it changed my life. It was such an amazing experience. I wanted young people to have a similar experience. So I started running this thing called Get With God. And back then it was just a weekend experience. We'd go away Friday night to the Glasshouse Mountains, and then Saturday morning we'd spend half a day alone with God up on the mountain. Then we'd have a debrief, a water fight of course, and spend the night in prayer. And these were teenagers. Some of us struggle to believe that teenagers can have an authentic faith. Absolutely they can. And I've seen lives of young people change. So when I came to the Sunshine Coast, I was actually born here. When we came back to the Sunshine Coast, I wanted to run something for the youth at Goodlife. So this year is number 7. It took a little while to get going. And basically, as I talk to young people before they come, they need to know exactly what's happening before they come on this thing, that I say it's about relationship with Jesus. Simply that. So I say, if you've got relationship with your best friend, what do you do to build that relationship? You spend time together, don't you? You hang out. You might go to a cafe and make eye contact and listen. You remove the distractions so you can spend time together. If all you ever do is fish together, your relationship could be a bit superficial. So there are things you can do to actually connect and push into this relationship to see it grow and develop. Our relationship with Jesus is the same. It's relationships, not religion. It's not just about rules and regulations. It's about an interactive, dynamic relationship with the King of Kings. And all that means, he wants to speak to us. He wants to reveal things to us. He wants us to know his heart. He wants us to walk each day holding his hand and being led by his Spirit. He wants us to walk in his Spirit, being led by his Spirit's relationship. And so most teenagers, when they grow up in Christian homes, their faith is based on their parents' faith. You know, I say to kids, so are you a Christian? Yeah, I'm a Christian. Why? Oh, because my parents go to church. At some point, you've got to move beyond that and say, this is my faith. This is my relationship with Jesus. And I know I have a relationship with Jesus, not just because the Bible tells me so, but because I've experienced him myself. I have spent time in his presence. And so Fraser is a great space because there's no internet, there's no technology. It's free from those distractions. And it's about helping them push into that space to experience an introduction to the concept of solitude and silence, meditation, getting into the Word, journaling, prayer, etc. Now, the whole time's not that. It's a gradual exposure. So the first couple of days, we then spend 2 or 3 hours. By the end of the week, they'll spend a whole day, 6 hours, 7 hours alone with God up in the rainforest. It's supervised. We got walkie-talkies. We sort of manage it. It's all very safe. But some people go, oh, what if they fall off a cliff? Well, there's no cliffs to fall off, actually, at Central Station. So, but day one, students come back saying that 2 hours was too long. I couldn't get into it. I didn't know what to do. That's great. There's no judgment. That's fantastic. The fact that you stuck it out and you pushed into that space is a part of the journey. This is a journey of relationship. Usually they come back on the last day and their response is, that wasn't long enough. I want to spend more time alone with God, because he started to show me things. He started to reveal himself to me in his word, you know, maybe in the song I was listening to, whatever it was. Powerful stuff. I've seen kids' lives just turned around because they met with the King of Kings.
Yeah, so good, isn't it? Stu? Yeah, just so appreciate you and having you in this community and what you've done for my boy, but also so many young people here is amazing. And again, the power of being in community. I guess what's at the invitation for us is to send our young people along. So if you have someone in grade...
Yeah, 10, 11 or 12.
10, 11 or 12, so seniors, and it's in early December to go along. It is by interview process because Stu wants to make sure it's actually going to be a great fit for them. So come and see him if you have a young adult, a young senior, a teenager, and get more information. It does cost money, so if you want to sponsor others, the invitation there is to contribute. I think it's such an amazing opportunity for our young people, and what a great way to start. Like if we can get our teenagers on fire for God, they're going to make the biggest difference. They've got their whole lives ahead of them. And finally, prayer. Pray for Stu. Pray for our young people as they go on this journey and all the time. But yeah, let's do that right now. Can you stand with me? Oh, yes, one more comment.
Sorry, you can stand. It won't be a quick one. We would love participation. You know, church is about family. We do a youth church up there, but there's actually no such thing biblically as a youth church. It's family, right? So, sponsorship. There are some kids who can't afford the full 300. There's plenty who can, and Christian parents would pay anything for their kids to go on these things, right? So that's not a problem. But also, if you would like to contribute and participate by baking. Some cakes, some cookies, Anzacs, brownies. We don't need huge amounts, but just it would help, one, for the kids to think, my church family is supporting us. This is from people in my church, you know. And usually they taste so much better than Aldi products, so thank you.
All right, let's pray. God, we just pause again and we thank you that you are a God who's at work here in this world. You're not a distant, far-off God, but you're at work and you desire relationship and closeness with us. So, Lord, thanks for Stu. who works so faithfully and closely with you. Lord, may he know your blessing. Bless him and his wife and his family, Lord. Encourage him, give him joy, and give him, he's been doing this a long time, Lord. So may he know your blessing and your favour. Lord, also for our young people, for this community, Lord, may we get behind this initiative. May the right people come along and may they get to experience your goodness. Amen. Thanks, Stu. All right, you can have a seat. And I'm going to hand over to our fearless leader, Nicholas. Is it Nicholas? Yeah, I thought so. Well, Nicholas, you might be in trouble yet, I don't know. We'll see how you go this morning.
Thanks, brother. Bless you. Yes, good to see you. Don't know about fearless. Mostly doing the right thing is, or having courage is doing the right thing terrified, right? So on that note, I wanted to begin today with two awkward topics, just quickly before we get into the word. So brace yourselves. The first one is a confession. And I've already confessed to my wife this morning. The confession is that I've fallen in love. And I've fallen in love with the Sunshine Coast and with Goodlife and everything about it, I love the fact that when Greg sent us all to greet each other, it's impossible to get you guys back in less than 5 minutes because everyone's connecting with each other. I love the fact that, how about those Lions last weekend? How about the Broncos this weekend? I'm going to be down at Alexandra Headland Surf Lifesaving Club watching that game. But V and I were talking this morning about Goodlife and about all that God has for us. I confess, I know it's short. Forgive me if it's too early in the relationship to say that, but actually we've fallen in love. We really have. Yesterday we went to a church opening down in Kawana. HM Church opened a new building, and we just went down to support the guys. They're friends of ours, the pastors there, And during the ceremony, they actually publicly thanked Goodlife for their role. I had no idea about it. But did you know your church, Goodlife, our church, has touched so many people all across the Sunshine Coast? God is so, so good. And so that's the first awkward thing out the way. We've fallen in love, all right? The second awkward thing is about money. I want to talk about money. Actually, I don't want to talk about money, so don't run like your hair's on fire out the door, because Greg's already done that. What I want to do is actually talk about talking about money. So it's okay, all right? Because some of you have noticed that we have been talking about it a little more. Some of you have come up and said, Nick, are we in dire straits? Are we overextended? Are we in a bad position? And thank you for your love and your concern. The answer is no, we're not. Things are run really well here. The lights aren't going to go off at any moment. That's well timed. Well timed. The lights are not going to go off. Things are not in dire straits. They're not. So thank you, dear ones. Thank you for your concern. But we're talking about it for two reasons. Firstly, because there's some amazingly exciting things that are laying before us. Some of them have to do with global engagement and the way that we as a church are pressing in to what God is doing around the world and our role in that. There's also some other exciting things, and over the next few months we're going to be talking about these, that as a community that we can be doing together to expand God's kingdom here on the Sunshine Coast that will have an effect even broader again than that. So that's the first reason. There's some exciting things. The second reason is because it's actually really good for us. Normative, radical, sacrificial generosity is part of the life of a believer. We don't have to follow Jesus. He gives us a choice. I believe God is a gentleman and gives us the opportunity to the extent that we're ready. He waits on us. He's truly the waiting God. Walter Brueggemann, what a hero. He really is. But it's so wild, it's so amazing, and actually it's so fulfilling to be involved in giving. And I say this, and it's not just me, it's actually with good warrant, both biblical and also, in social sciences, those who give the most are the most fulfilled. Whether it's their time, their talent, their treasures, their testimony, but they're serving. I was talking with Steve upstairs. The joy of serving and the joy of giving away that which we've been given is the most exquisite joy of all. So there we go. I think that's it. That's the two awkward things out the way. We're going to be continuing our sermon series here in the book of James. It's been wonderful. It's been testing. It's been stretching for me. Some of you guys have got it all down pat and you've nailed it all. For me, it's been some tricky parts to it. Gosh, that hurts a bit. Oh, wow, I need to really rethink that. But it's been a wonderful journey, so thanks for being on it with us. Today, I've called the sermon Unified. And I've called it that because it talks about division. It talks about the things that tear a church apart. And, we're called to unity. In fact, that's a word you use. I don't know if you even knew, but he used that as he was doing announcements. We're called to unity, not uniformity. We're not called to all be the same as each other. That would be dreadfully boring. And for some of you, it'd be great to have more than one of you. To have more than one of me would be really dreadful. So we're not called to be like each other, but we're called to be united. And I think through the pages of Scripture today, we're going to see that the mortar that binds us together is not similarity. It's humility and understanding our shared calling. It's those two things. It's not being exactly like someone else. It's being connected. And we're going to see that Christ is our template in that. We're going to read here. It's 3 verses. I've also picked up the last verse that V finished on last week because I think it's a segue into the other 2 verses today. It's very short. We're in James chapter 4. We're going to go from verse 10 to verse 12. So let's read that and follow along. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against a brother or sister or judges them speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you are not keeping it, but sitting in judgment on it. There's only one lawgiver and judge. Did you notice the capitals? There's only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy. But you, who are you to judge your neighbour? God, I ask you to be speaking to us today, your people assembled to hear from you. Lord, I ask that you would diminish my voice, amplify your voice. You're the one with words of life. Where else can we go? So, Father, be speaking to us, your people. We're ready. Humble us. Get our hearts ready for it, Lord. For teaching that is testing, that is challenging, that is stretching, Lord, we lay our lives open before you. In Jesus' name. So, a number of years ago, something happened. And it happened to all of us. We might have blocked it out because it was so terrible. It was this thing called a pandemic. Now, for some of us, the collective trauma was just too much and we've just got an amnesia about it. But this dreadful thing happened. The world shut down. A bunch of people moved up here from Melbourne. And though then tomorrow or today going to be going for the Broncos because they know when in Rome do as the Romans do. But so all that happened, right? During that awful time that we've forgotten about, I was involved in this thing called a Zoom, which again, we've deleted from our memory because they're so stupid and terrible, where you sit looking at a little computer screen with little faces on the computer screen, pretending that you're engaged in the conversation whilst you've got a book behind it and you're reading it and you're doing emails on the side and you're making a drink over here, a coffee over here. I was involved in this Zoom. And they brought together these extraordinary leaders from all across the country, these amazing leaders, and I was thinking, what on earth am I doing in this Zoom. I'm sitting there with a shirt on and then board shorts underneath in the back shed, because that's how you do Zooms. And they're going around and talking about the amazing stuff that have been going on. They're all A-type personalities, extraordinary, and one of them is like, oh, I've written another book, and this other, leader is there saying, oh, I've done a new podcast and it's amazing, and I'm just feeling, oh my gosh, I haven't been doing anything, and it was a guy, he said, for the next 2 years I've worked out the sermon series for my church, and I'm just like, and finally I didn't know that I was meant to be amazing somehow, otherwise there's no way I would have zoomed into this terrible thing. And it got round to me, and the guy said, how about you, Nick? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, this time, it had been a tough time where we were. All these arguments and silly things going on about vaccines and mandates, and then there was all this racial stuff going on, and it was a really tough time. And I said, I don't know. I guess I've been wrestling with God about two things, encouragement and offense. Encouragement, I'm pretty sure no one has ever died from having too much encouragement. So I've just decided I'm going to try to encourage folks. That was the first thing. No grand blog or new series of books or anything. And the second thing I said was, I've been thinking what it means to be unoffendable. To be unoffendable. Everyone, and hey, it's been a bit of a blowback this last couple of weeks with all the crazy stuff going on online, right? People are offended. I was talking with a mate at another church. People are offended by other people being offended. Some people are offended because other people are not offended. We're all offended and we're running around in this place of offense. And guys, just breathe. What would it look like to be unified? Today we're going to look at having friends in low places. We're going to look at what it means to not give in to church wars. And lastly, we're going to talk about what it means to... you're right over there, buddy. Sorry, guys. I'm probably causing him to do that. But it's great to have you here, mate. Please stay in the room. Please stay in the room with us. So, friends, it begins out talking about humility. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He'll lift you up. Humble yourself. Lay down yourself before the Lord. I've got a friend who says that actually all of us, ultimately, every human, all 9 billion people on planet Earth and all those who've lived are going to be on our faces before the Lord. Best that we put ourselves there, otherwise we'll be put there, but ultimately before Him, a God of perfect love and sovereignty and might, we're all going to be on our face before Him. But we've got a strange understanding, I think, in our culture about this concept of humility. It feels lowly. What does it look like to have friends in low places? Can I have up the picture of the frog? So, since we've moved here, our middle guy, Tino, has been loving all the cane toads. Some of you guys don't appreciate cane toads. Yesterday, he found 16 in our yard. And he puts them out in the neighbour's yard. I've been telling him not to. Which, of course, they just bounce back into our yard. Because I think he also feeds them. He hasn't told us that, but that's my sneaking suspicion. And he knows how to hold them so he doesn't get the poison, etc., etc. And look, I don't know if this is a cane toad or a frog. You say potato, I say potato. What do I know? It's an amphibian. But have you ever seen those frogs that know how to lick their own eyes? Have you seen that? It's kind of cool. It got me thinking about humility and Jesus' words on it. Stick with me here for a second. There's this passage in Luke 6, and you'll see the parallel of what James was telling us. Because remember, James, Jesus' half-brother, uses a lot of Jesus' teachings. And what we're reading about here comes from this part in Luke 6. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you'll be forgiven. Oh my gosh, that's pretty dense. There's a lot going on there. A little further down here, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, brother, let me take the speck out of your eye? when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your eye, and then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. What would it look like to have friends in low places? The Garth Brooks song, some of you, 3 of you, are not going to be able to think about anything else for the next 15 seconds. What would it look like for us? Because that's Jesus. Our template is Jesus. Philippians 2. He was in very nature God. He didn't consider equality with God something to be grasped. He made himself nothing, taking the nature of a servant, being found in human likeness. Jesus, when he came to earth, he didn't give up his divinity. He gave up his glory. He made himself comparatively as nothing. He humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross. Humility is not what we think humility is. Biblical, true humility is not what we think it is. We think of it as lowly. C.S. Lewis said, true humility is not thinking less of yourselves, it's thinking of yourselves less. Understanding your role in God's economy. Moses is described in Numbers 12:3 as the most humble man that ever lived. Tradition says that Moses wrote that. Actually, he's wrong, because I'm actually the most humble man that's ever lived. My blog is coming up. My book's at the back. But my point, so sorry for the joke, but my point is this, that actually true humility is understanding who we are and understanding ourselves in relation to the Lord of all, the Lord of the cosmos, the Lord of all creation, the Lord who's sovereign, who's mighty, who calls us his beloved, that he would wait upon us. Think about it for a second. That he would wait upon me. That he waits upon us. He loves us with the apple of his eye. He knows what's going on. He cares for us so deeply. To understand who we are before him and our role in what he is calling us to do, that is true humility. Humble yourselves before the Lord. He will lift you up. And here we come to verse 11. And this is the church wars part. If you can, thank you guys. Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. We said how this term brothers and sisters, Adelphoi it is, but it appears at least, I think it's 15 times in this short letter by James. It's an intimate term. It's not James, I'm the super guy, the super apostle, the leader of the church in Jerusalem, the bishop of Jerusalem. I'm telling you, little underlings out there in Christendom, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't say that. He comes alongside them. True or good leadership comes alongside them. It's intimate. Just as being before the Lord implies intimacy here, he begins with intimacy, but he also talks honestly and frankly with them about some things that are going on in chapter 3, verse 5. He says that there's great boasts going on in 3 verse 14. That there's bitter envy, there's selfish ambition. In chapter 4, there's desires that battle within us. There's wrong motives. In chapter 4 verse 6, there's pride. There's all these things. And did James know of this or see this in the early Jesus communities? Perhaps, most likely he did. But these things are endemic to humankind. We all suffer from these things. And what he's about to talk about next comes from a place of ill motives. Brothers and sisters, don't slander one another. And we hear that term slander, and you know, I used to work in the law, and slander by legal definition is saying something untrue that inversely affects another's reputation. Libel is doing it in written form, slander, but they're both called defamation. I've got some friends here who used to work in law in Sydney, and they will know that Sydney is actually the world centre for defamation law, because Sydney-siders sit around saying abusive things about each other, then suing each other. That's why it's such a big metropolis. But here it doesn't imply that. It doesn't imply that it's not true. The original language, because the Bible wasn't written in English, if you didn't know and you're new to it, It could be true or it could not be true. The point is not the veracity of it, the truth of it. The point is the heart behind it and how it's carried out. And I want to do something here. In a second, I'm going to ask our friends to put up a slide, and I know that some of us are going to be triggered. If you're someone easily triggered, perhaps you just want to close your eyes and just meditate and go into your own little, lake, house or something. But I want you to brace yourselves. I want you guys to put up, it's like a word salad. Okay. So here, I just put up some stuff that even in the last few weeks or month, I've had conversations with guys about. Some of you guys are looking at that thinking, is that a controversial thing? I didn't even know. Some of you are thinking, I can't believe that's a controversial thing. That's totally squared away. And a mixture all in between. We're not going to talk about these things, not today. And I don't want you to think that the Bible has nothing to say about all these things, because it does. And at some point, we're going to just let Scripture bring them up one by one. We won't deal with them all at once like this. This is a bit much, right? We probably better get it off screen. Can I go to the next slide of that guy, the green guy? I don't know if for proprietary reasons I'm allowed to say his name. Let's just call him the indelible bulk. But some of us get triggered and we get mad and we do things and we say things and we post things online. And friends, even in the last couple of weeks, I know because some of you guys have come with regret and, oh gosh, I probably shouldn't have said that thing. I overspoke a little in the safety of my own office, and I wrote that thing on the computer. And really, honestly, I don't think I should have. Some of us are what I'll call in a pre-repentant state with that stuff. Some of us are probably thinking, gosh, I really ought to not do that. Maybe you ought to have a fast from posting things on social media. Maybe you should. I don't know. I'm not talking to you, like whatever God says, right? But we get in this place where what does it say? We slander one another. And this gets really interesting. Anyone who speaks against or brother or sister judges them, and in so doing speaks against the law and judges it. How can that be the case? How can we be speaking against the law? Keep in mind, Jewish audience hearing this, the law was highly esteemed. We're going to talk about the law in a second. And they're speaking against the law because what they're doing is speaking against their brother and sister, speaking against their neighbour. Most translations say speaking evil against someone. So it can be gossip. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And yes, this is an echo of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Gossip, talking about a problem when we're not part of the solution. Reverend Dr. John McElroy, the guy who married us, told me that definition 30 years ago. Halitosis of the brain is another description of gossip. It could be that. Or it could be speaking evil against someone else. It could be church wars of a kind like this. Can I have up all those little icons? I came across this interesting thing. In fact, V brought it up to us in our preaching team meeting about church wars, the way that we do church wars. And sometimes we throw missiles, we attack from afar. And we do that. I mean, none of you do this, but you might know someone who does one of these things, right? Guerrilla tactics. We ambush the unsuspecting. We come up after Greg has shared notices and come up and say, oh yeah, but this thing and such. And he's just like, whoa, I was just trying to serve the community and love it. Don't do that, friends. Let's not do that. Snipers, a well-aimed thing, just a precise hit because I just want to hurt that person. Terrorism, we just throw the can with the petrol in it and it explodes and it burns 5 people on each side. Mines, where people won't even know I'm just going to bury this thing here. They're not going to know for a bunch of time until they come across it. And espionage, we have friendships and we use those friendships for info, and then we can go to propaganda or gossip, spreading the info. Cold War, V talked about this last week, freezing others out. Nuclear attack, I've seen that. Where people, it's like they'll cut off their nose to spite their face. They'll blow up a whole church, a whole community for the sakes of them. or not really them, but for them being done right on such and such an issue. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't wrestle with things, guys. I'm not saying that we shouldn't seek out the veracity and the truth of things, test it against Scripture, be led forth in the Spirit to be working things out. I'm saying that the way that we do it is a big issue. James is saying the way that we do it is a big issue. Don't speak against a brother or sister. If you do that, you judge them. And in fact, in so doing, you speak against the law and you judge it. When you judge the law, you're not keeping it. You're putting yourself above it. You're elevating yourself above the law. And here, and I'm going to, in a second, ask V to hand me something. It says there's only one lawgiver and judge. Do you see the capitals? Do you know who that is? It's not you. Remember a few weeks ago we did that thing where I said, you are not God. And you said, and neither are you. You're not. I'm not. He is. But there's this interesting relationship going on with the law. Can I have up that sheet, love? Thank you. Huh? No, it's all right. So, those who are hearing this, they hear the law and they thought about all the laws in the Old Testament. Can I have that picture of Moses? So remember, he brought the 10 Commandments back down from the mountain. Can I have up the next slide just for a quick dad joke? Because dad jokes are hilarious. The first tablet connected, it's from a meme a few years ago. Dad jokes are hilarious. Everyone laugh. I heard some laughter, thank you. Go back to the thing about Mo. Sorry, quick aside. But he brings down the law, and the 10 Commandments are kind of illustrative of the fact that there's all these laws in the first 5 books of the Bible. According to a guy, one of the famous rabbis called Rambam, which by the way is a super cool name, but in the 11th century he compiled them all. He said there's 613 laws in the Old Testament. Mitzvah, they call them. 248 positive, 365 negative. One for every day of the year is the thing that you shouldn't do. There's a lot. And some of them are kind of obvious and they're cool. Some of them I'm reading them and I'm like, there's like a hairbreadth difference between those. I can't discern a thing. But some of them are like, to know that God exists is one. To hallow God's name is another one. Well, this one here. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Jesus quoted that one. I'm going to come back to that in a second. The signs and symbols. There's marks of being a Jew, like that you would circumcise the male offspring. Now, show of hands if you're circumcised. No, just joking. Don't do that. Just seeing if you're awake out there. But, you know, then there's to bind the tefillin on your head and on your arms. There's little things with scripture in them. There's, you know, the Jewish custom that you've ever seen Orthodox Jews don't shave the sideburns of their face. There's, what about this? The poor and unfortunate. Don't afflict the orphan or the widow. Leave the unreaped corner of the field, right? Where you wouldn't harvest up to the edge of the field because you would leave some for the poor. What about this one? This is a good one. We've talked about this today. To give charity according to your means. It's elastic. The more you have, the more you get to give. It doesn't say it, but in brackets, you can only eat so many burritos. You only need so many pairs of tennis shoes. Like, what are you going to do with it all? May as well use it to bless others. What about this one? Care for the refugees, the sojourners, the aliens. You know the heart of the sojourner. You were sojourners in the land of Egypt. There's one about parents. All the teenagers have left, so I can say this. Honour your father and mother. Don't smite them. Don't curse them. Reverently fear them, or they shall come down upon you with great vengeance and furious anger. That's not me, that's Samuel L. Jackson. All right, what about this one? This is amazing. There's 24, 24, about who you should not have sex with in the laws. I'm like, wouldn't it be easier if we just had one about who we should? But there's all these people who you shouldn't, your cousins, and there's all reasons for that, lest you become good at playing the banjo. What about this one? I love this one. Do not have sexual relations with your mother. And it gives a reason. Because she's your mother. Do you need another reason? Is your brain broken? Like, what's, you know, And it goes on, and there's all these ones, and it seems exhausting. And how do we make sense of this, you know? And one of the ones, I want to end on this bit here with regard to the law. It talks about Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Did you know it was last week? From Wednesday sundown to Thursday sundown, the high point in the Jewish religious calendar began 9 days before at Rosh Hashanah, where according to their traditional beliefs, I don't believe it's biblical, but in their tradition it's instructive for us. On Rosh Hashanah, a trumpet is blown, a shofar, and 3 books are opened. Those of the righteous, those of the unrighteous, and those who have 9 days to work it out. Then it comes to the Day of Atonement. And back in the day, they'd get 2 lambs, they'd bring them in, and they would slaughter one to atone for the sins of the nation, and the other one would become the scapegoat. That's where we get that term, the scapegoat. And the priest would get his head, and he would put his head against the head of the goat, and he would confess all the sins of the nation. I don't know how long that took, but onto this goat, then they would tie a scarlet ribbon around its horns and send it out into the wilderness to be descriptive of God's freedom that comes. And those who repented in that 9 days could move from the 3rd book into the 1st book. It's a foreshadowing of Christ. The Day of Atonement. Jesus has given us atonement at one meant. We who were separated from God are now brought back together with God by what Jesus did on the cross. He is God, and he was God since time immemorial, since before time was time. And he came as a babe to earth, and he lived a life without sin, without fault, and because of that, he's the only one who could actually be the atoning lamb for all time. Not as a yearly thing, not in this cycle of maybe I'm in that book, maybe I'm in that bit, oh, I don't know. What have I got to do to get from that book to this book? No, Jesus once and for all became the sacrifice. Jesus both contracts and expands the law. It's really confusing, 613 laws. I don't know, am I doing them? Ought I to do them? My great-grandmother, when my great-grandfather went round to court her with a box of chocolates, grabbed the chocolates and threw them over the fence because he bought them on a Sabbath. Some people you meet, they're full-on Sabbatarians. Where do we draw the line? How do we understand this? Jesus is instructive. He came to fulfill the law. Because of his work and his life and his death and his resurrection, the law's been fulfilled. And a smart aleck came up to Jesus once, legal smart aleck. And he said, okay, what's the most important of the laws? You hold yourself out to be a rabbi. What's the most important law? You know what Jesus said to him? The Shema, the let's call it the shut up and listen. Israel, Shema Yisrael, hear Israel. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. He's peerless, he's matchless. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And Jesus was going out of a different translation. He added mind, because that was what they were common to hearing. Love God with everything. With everything. And the second is like it. Love your neighbour as yourself. Love your neighbour as yourself. Love God, love others. We extrapolate that, call it the golden rule. Did you know it's not only in Christianity? It appears in most every major world religion with a difference. Everywhere else, and I put this in the online notes, in Islam, in Hinduism, in Buddhism, in Confucianism, in Jainism, in Baha'i, it's in all of them. Except that in those ones is do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. You see, it's couched in the negative. Or it's limited to just those who are Christians. Jesus expands it. Do to others, proactively do to them what you would like for them to do to you. And Jesus expands on that. Loving your neighbour as yourself. Loving your enemies, praying for those who persecute you. Yeah, all the laws are shrunk down about festivals and curly hair and Sabbath and all those things. and some smart Alex, can I up that table just quickly here, and we're almost about to end. There's a table which some theologians have said it might be helpful if you're reading through those things, and if you're ever looking through the Old Testament thinking, do these things apply, don't they apply? And some of them are the religious practices, well, you sacrifice like this, and you do this, and and you have these festivals. Well, that's done, that's finished. Some of them are civil laws about social order. That one about not cropping out to the edge of your field so that you can care for others. Some of them are governmental, actually, and they only apply if you live in a theocracy, and we don't, okay? So if you're worried about that, no, we don't. So don't try and force that on others. So they apply in mostly not, but certain circumstances. But the moral things, and they are really talking about our posture before God. You're the wonderful one. You're the Lord of the universe. I'm laying before you. I'm laying down on my face before you. What do you want me to do? My life is yours. My relationships are yours. My money is yours. My talents are yours. What do you want me to do? In a posture towards others. And sometimes it's hard to understand. Sometimes we can't get our head around it. James says that we have the perfect law that gives freedom. And we're free from sin. We're not free to sin, but friends, the Spirit will lead us. If in doubt, talk with friends in community. Let's grow. Let's talk about these things. Or that word salad I put up there, I'm not saying they're off-limit things to talk about. They are if you become a hawk. So if that's you, don't talk about it. But let's engage in these things. Let's work it out together. Let's be led forth by the Spirit together. And lastly, I'd like to invite up our friends, the band here. They're going to lead us in a song in a second. And let's all jump to our feet, because we've all been sitting down a little much today. Not me, but you. It's not me, it's you. But I want to talk about the last Gilmour to arrive. So yeah, we came here 3 months ago. Can I up the photo of Mo and Huzzy? That's our son Moses, and one of his best friends, if not his best friend, Huzzy the dog. Now, Huzzy is we were told he was a Labrador. He's not a Labrador, but he's just that dog. You look at him and you look away and you look back and he's bigger when he was a puppy, and he's just grown to this extraordinary... In fact, he's so big that my wife has to go down to Melbourne this week to pick him up, because he was big enough to be flown from California to Melbourne, but not from Melbourne to Brisbane. Go figure. He's too big, apparently. So she's going to go down and get him. Pray for her. But he's this gigantic dog, right? And he's also one of the sweetest guys you're ever going to meet. If you come to our place, straight away he'll love you. He just loves you. He comes in and you can go to the letterbox and come back, and it's like you're Lazarus who's risen from the dead. Like, oh, you're here, I missed you. And he comes up and his tail's wagging, and he's so big his tail will swoop off things off the table, and at least once a week he swoops and he hits me somewhere I'm not going to talk about in church, but I fold over in disbelief and pain. He's done it again. But here's the thing. Where we last used to live, we lived in community. There's a bunch of people around us and living with us, and in an area, and across the road there was this guy who moved in with his mum. It was like, what do you call that, like housing for folks who are needing housing, like community housing. And I'd got to meet him because we took him over a dryer or something like that. And the mum was dealing with addiction. The son, teenage son, he was really dark and angry and things. Wouldn't even say hi. I'd say hi, mate, and he wouldn't even speak and things. There was a lot of sadness for him. But one day we were at the front gate. We were in the front yard, and he went past, and Huzzy went up, tail wagging. The guy was sort of mean to him. It didn't matter. He loved him regardless. Unoffendable. Could it be that the end point of this sermon, to be reductionistic, is be more like a Labrador? Could it be that stupid? And could Nick be saying that? Yes. My answer is yes, I'm saying that. We could be a little more like Huzzy. Our dog Huzzy, right? So these guys are going to lead us in a song, and as they do so, if you'd be so brave, I'd like you to think, what does it look like to humble myself before the Lord? Maybe you're someone who regrets some of the things you've said or done, even in the last couple of weeks. Some of the wild things you've said you thought it was the safety of your computer, but actually you're just lobbing out hand grenades out into the real world and hurting people's hearts. Some of us, we need to repent. Some of us, I think, need to think about other kinds of church wars. Some of us think, gosh, I need to be a bit more of an eye licker, like a frog. I need to clean out my own eyes, you know. And some of us, and I'm going to give a chance when we come back at thinking this Jesus sounds pretty amazing. Not the Jesus that I thought was the Jesus that Christians go on and on about. And today's the day when actually you want to get on your knees before him. So as these guys lead us in a song, let's open up our hearts. Let's hold this moment as a holy moment where we can let the Spirit work in our hearts.